All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're just coming out the shower. Just finished taking a bath. It was a busy day today. Got a lot of things done. But we want to talk a little bit about the sad but inevitably inevitable news of Patrick Day's passing. I say inevitable because, generally speaking, this is the scenario that happens when somebody gets concussed like that and does not regain consciousness as they are pulled out of the ring. All right. We had Daddy Chef as well this year. Uh, we had a number of fatalities as well as a number of injuries due to severe trauma in the ring. Okay. It's accumulation of punishment as well as it can be very traumatic punishment. Okay. I think it's in one of the higher weight classes, probably light heavyweight. You can always Google it and check. Shout out to Intangible Boxing. Shout out to you, my brother. We're going to discuss a number of different things. But first and foremost, I want to talk a little bit about boxing and how it's separated from all other sports and all other martial arts. MMA is a sport in which you're literally trying to break your opponent's will. You want to get them into submission. So as dangerous as it seems, the referee can stop the fight at any time based on his discretion, a punch or a kick or whatever. And also the opponent can also tap the canvas and say, I submit. So the objective of MMA is obviously to either knock out your opponent or get them to submit. MMA is a very bruising sport. It's a very damaging sport. But at the end of the day, there are very few fatalities in MMA. Okay, very few. Well, at least less than boxing. American football is also another very dangerous sport. Of course, Australian football is very fatal. That's a much more dangerous sport than American football. But in American football, there's a lot of injuries that happen in American football, right? But fatalities, it's on the low end when it comes to fatalities. Okay, but there's a lot of injuries in American football, as with American basketball. But I think there's more injuries in American football than any other sport, probably. The objective of American football is to get the ball to the end zone. And to do that, you have to go through an entire team to be able to do so. But that's the objective. Get the ball to the end zone. Boxing is the only sport that I know of where the objective of the sport is to punish, hurt, injure, knock out, dominate your opponent. There is no other sport that the goal of the sport is to inflict damage to your opponent so that you either knock them out. Okay? There's no tapping out in boxing. There is no tapping out in boxing. If your opponent's will does not bend and he keeps on fighting back, you keep on fighting him. Even if you be getting the better of the exchanges, or you may be getting more headshots in on him. As a result, because every fighter in boxing, or most fighters in boxing, have a will to win, and nobody wants to break their will. Nobody wants their will broken. We have fatalities in boxing. A boxer will get injured in a fight in a very critical way and will continue fighting until there's no breath left in them. Patrick Day was one of those boxers. Until Cornwell short-circuited him till he was no longer conscious, Patrick Day was going to go down as a true warrior fighting. Like I said, Clarissa Shields, all these women, all these men in boxing have a different mindset to you and I. It's a totally different mindset. And the only thing I can tell you that's comparable to that is the military mindset and the local forces, the local law enforcement mindset. These people have a will their will is powerful. They're very strong-minded people. And regardless of what's happening to their body, if their mind is still intact, they are going to pursue onwards. These are people who are driven by challenge. These are people who are driven to challenge their bodies, challenge their minds, challenge their spirits to go further. And sometimes it's possible physically. And the only thing to save them from themselves will be the referee, their corner. That's the only people who are going to save them. Because a boxer, their will is to fight. That's what they do. They don't tap out. In boxing, it's considered almost a sin to quit. And most boxers have that kind of mindset. And you have to have a corner. You have to have someone there to look out for them. Because when it's go time, baby, it's go time. That's how they think. Remember, these guys were initiated into boxing by taking ass whoopings. A lot of these boxers didn't start off great superstars. In the ring, when they started learning boxing, they took punishment. They paid their dues to get where they're at. They crafted their skills. You know, they always talk about the bloody nose in boxing. Every single boxer has had a bloody nose. That's why you have the boxer's nose. Even the guys who say, I'm so pretty, they had a bloody nose. All of them. All boxers have been hit upside the head. All of them. But what helped them to continue onwards? The difference between somebody who pursued a career, I'm talking about a career, not amateur, not one-time event like I'm going to do, or Paul Logan and KSI are going to do like 2 times maybe in their career and that's it. No, these people pursued a career in boxing. We're talking about guys that have gone 50 plus amateur fights, getting hit upside the head with headgear or without headgear. Then they have a professional career that spans 40-something fights. So in all, when you take their amateur career and their professional career, we're talking about just a slightly less than 100 plus fights. All these guys do so many rounds of sparring where you're getting hit. In boxing, it's not whether you get hit, because you're going to get hit. But it's what you do when you get hit. That's why they're all warriors in there. You hear Floyd Mayweather talk about warriors, and these guys are warriors. There's a reason why he says these things. Because it's a mindset that the average boxing fan does not understand but appreciates. They see it. They talk about, the boxer's heart. They have a lot of heart, but they don't understand. Almost every single known and recognizable boxer that you talk about, from Mike Alvarado to Floyd Mayweather to Pernell Whitaker, they all got heart. Because all of them been initiated into the sport of boxing by getting every single boxer that's ever been in boxing has always had one event in their life, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, where they've gotten their ass whooped. You may not have seen it, but they all have gotten their ass whooped. Floyd Mayweather, we know that Paul Spadafora whooped his motherfucking ass. It's on, you just go type up Paul Spadafora, Floyd Mayweather, and go watch it. Paul Spadafora whooped his ass till Floyd sat down on the ground and started to puff. Every single boxer in boxing has been initiated into this sport and continued onward by being beat up. So after getting beat up, you still want to go. And what a lot of people don't see, in whether it's in their sparring, in their training, in their preparation, Floyd Mayweather's been beat up many times. I've heard Floyd Mayweather Sr. say once that he's taking too much punishment in preparation for fights. Manny Pacquiao's been through this. We've seen him in actual fights getting beat up. Clarissa Shield got bloody noses. These women, all of them have a certain kind of mindset. And do understand that anything can happen in that ring. You can prepare how much you want. Anything can happen in that ring. It doesn't take much. Like I said before, it's a game of inches. It's a game of you make one mistake that's wrong, and it could be over for your career. It could be over for your life. It could be over for everything. Everything could go in one moment. So the guys who are elite in boxing are on a whole other level. You know, we see them fighting one another and we don't understand how. The only way to understand this is, think about it like this. Gennady Golovkin. Remember when he faced David Lemieux? You remember that? And David Lemieux was trying to slip Gennady Golovkin's punches, but Gennady Golovkin keep on tagging him. Yet you saw Canelo do the same thing, but better. You saw Derevyanchenko do the same thing, but even better than Canelo. You know why? Because these guys are elite. They've perfected that. So whereas guys like David Lemieux who don't box and they're not known for boxing, trying to learn that thing overnight, they can't do it properly. They get popped upside the head. Whereas an elite boxer knows how to do it properly, how to slip a punch properly, how to bob and weave from a punch without getting tagged up. It's a game of inches. And these are some of the things that I'm trying to explain to people. I remember Adonis Stevenson, elite fighter, got knocked into a coma by Gavordik. Got into a combination. Gavordik's not known as a power puncher. Knocked him into a coma. He slumped down on the canvas. And that was it. And very easily that could have happened to Floyd, Pacquiao, Errol Spence, you name it. As dominant as they look, one little angular mistake. A game of inches, ladies and gentlemen. One little mistake. And they could become like Adonis Stevenson, Patrick Day. I want you guys to appreciate the sport of boxing. You and I'm going to tell you as it is, I'm going to be honest with you guys. We'll never reach that kind of level of accuracy and movement and precision of movement and being able to implement the heart or implement the desire to win because of knowing how to do it, first of all, and then two, being able to also do it in a particular fight. Because it's one thing to know how to do it. You have the muscle memory and everything to do it. But then your mind, for whatever reason, does not implement it. Okay, so much respect to and prayers to the family of Patrick Day. I kind of saw this coming, though. The only person who God has been kind to was Adonis Stevenson. And he's almost made a full recovery. Zab Judah is another guy who's been fortunate. Ali Bashir, very fortunate. Very, very fortunate. Very fortunate. When a boxer goes unconscious in a fight, there are only seconds left. The moment they hit the canvas and it's a serious knockout, steps must be put in place to give them oxygen immediately. Step number two is to get them as quickly as possible to the nearest health center or hospital to take the pressure off the brain immediately and control the hemorrhaging. This has been happening since the 1950s, where boxers have died on their way to the hospital. Some of them have been irreparable damage that if they were to stay alive, they wouldn't have much functioning. And then it's a decision by the family to either terminate or not. Comes down to that. And it's a very serious thing. Usually, these injuries, traumatic brain injury, it begins in training camp. And then it's finally manifests itself in the final day in the actual fight. So what happened with Dadashev. I would not be surprised Patrick Day somehow, some way got injured before the fight. What doctors need to do is brain scans and CAT scans of the fighters before going into a fight, and must be well aware of what injuries these fighters are going into fights with. Fighters always go into fights with injuries, but they should be aware of that. That's a precautionary measure that needs to be taken before and after a fight. You have to CAT scan fighters now, before and after fights. And if the fighter has significant amount of injuries, the question is, do we abort the fight? Do we postpone the fight? What do we do? Because money's involved. So it can be very tricky. Some older fighters, why they're not getting fights that they want or getting fight sanctioned, is mainly because of their age. But I think one of the easiest ways to sort this problem out is, one, to check to see if the fighters have any traumatic brain injuries. Zab Judah got a brain bleed against Red Cat. It wasn't Red Cat. It was what was the kid's name that gave him the brain bleed? I forgot. Red Cat did in Devin Alexander. But you have to understand how dangerous this sport is. It's a very, very dangerous. It's not really a sport, really, to be honest with you. It's more of a. It is a sport, but it's a blood sport. And the many fighters who make it out safe and go back to their families, and you hear boxers talk about that all the time. God bless them. But they need to check out traumatic brain injuries to fighters, especially when they're getting a lot of headshots and a lot of body shots. They're taking a lot of punishment. I'll have to look at the Patrick Day Cornell fight to see if Patrick Day was taking a lot of punishment in that fight. I wouldn't be surprised he was. Probably hellacious blows were being traded between the two guys. But let me hear from you guys now. You guys start to do the talking. I want to hear from you guys. What do you think is one of the most important things? What do you think is one of the most important things that fighters need to have done to them to sort of help to limit some of these fatalities in boxing? So now it's up to you guys. Am I buffering still? All right, Tommy Temper, you told me I'm buffering like a motherfucker. Hold on, I'm gonna stay out here. I'm gonna be drinking water and stuff. Let me just go put on some clothes and stuff, and we'll talk a little bit more. Okay? How we doing now? We doing better? So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. This is why I said discussion time for this topic. I do believe honestly that there's sometimes very little we can do about these incidents. They're just a simple reminder of the fact that in boxing, You know, a lot of fans want entertainment, but they don't understand the price at which entertainment comes. And it reminds me of what Floyd Mayweather says so much about in boxing, that self-preservation is very important. And actually, that's one of the things the referee says all the time. Protect yourself at all times, right? So it's very important to that the boxers understand this at all times. All times. Like Floyd says, it's not cool to take punishment. And it isn't. It isn't cool to take punishment. You know, you hear some people talk about rock'em sock'em robots and, you know, it's all about throwing punches and that's what boxing is. No, that's dangerous. You know, Brandon Rios, he would talk about how he smiled when he get hit with a punch. He loves to be hit in the head and stuff. Look what happened to Brandon Rios. He was stopped 2 times now. He's been stopped. And he said he had to retire from boxing because he's taking too much punishment. You know? Boxing's not about taking punishment. And a lot of people think it's blood, guts, and glory, like the Rocky movie. That's not true. That is not cool. Your life is on the line. You can die in there. So you don't want to find yourself in a position where you put yourself in a position where you can die. You want to increase the position that you live. That's why you hear Floyd say, fight smart, not hard. That's why we're talking about PEDs in boxing. So I want to hear you guys input your thoughts on this. I followed up and I sent some links to Clarissa and also to Bud Crawford. There are people who are responding to me, but not Clarissa and Bud so far. So that's the follow up on that. I started sending links so they would be aware of the little debates that are going on around concerning what I sent to them. I haven't put up everything, but I put up one of what EJ Boxing Live had highlighted and what I know they're aware of what's happening in social media, so I want them to be aware of what's going on. I'm very happy that Ali Bashir, he's at home making a pretty good recovery. That's awesome. You know, Mr. Hulk 333 says very sad news. Lets you know boxing is not a game. Bless him and his family. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So for the older people who want to get into boxing, understand it's not a game. You're not going in there to play boxing. Okay? It's a very dangerous sport. Probably the most dangerous martial arts sport out there. Mainly because the sport is about striking. It's a lot of striking. You know? Blunt force trauma. It's not grappling like MMA. MMA's, they do strike, but there's a lot of ground game. Jiu-jitsu stuff. You break things and you choke things and stuff like that. And it's highly monitored. So the referee's watching everything in the ground game. Other martial arts sports that are in the Olympics, you know, that involve striking, they again regulated very highly. So by the time somebody gets struck, in a scoring punch, they stop everything one time. Whoop, award the point. In boxing, the referee can allow a fighter to throw 6, 7, 8, 9 punches on another fighter. The fighter's starting to lose consciousness, and that's when the referee might step in. Depends on the referee. It's a very dangerous sport. You know? And so as a result of that, you have to be very careful what you do in it. It's a very dangerous sport. Very, very dangerous sport. Learning defense is something you must learn right away and at all times. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes, sir. It's very important in the sport of boxing. Defense is something that guarantees you won't get hurt like that. When you know what to do defensively, that's going to be a part of your offense at all times. At all times. And even though I give you guys the general concept, like, I may say punch and then roll under, or punch and fall in, or punch and, slip, punch, roll under, pivot, Even as I say these things, there's a way to do it so that you stay properly in balance, so that you don't burn up energy, so that you have the right positioning, so that if you have to mount an offense again, like for instance, a simple lead right, roll under, pivot, right? That's one nice smooth motion. How you execute that will determine if you get tagged up or not. All right, there's a very precise way to do that. And so that can only be implemented not from a knowledge of it, not from knowing it or watching somebody do it, but you have to keep on doing it repetitively, until it becomes a part of you, so that it's a reaction, not something you think about doing, you just do it. And you have to understand that just even a simple inside pivot, meaning you're toe-to-toe with somebody and you throw an inside pivot, or like Mike Tyson does, you pivot a 180-degree pivot. 180-degree pivot, so for those of you who don't understand, is you're going from one side of the person's body to the next side of a person's body. There are very few fighters who can do that. Okay, Mike Tyson did it in the peekaboo stance. Floyd Mayweather did it in the shell stance. All right, you move from one side of the fighter's body to the other. Errol Spence can do it. Gervonta Davis can do it. Devin Haney can do it, as far as I do know. That's very rare. It takes a certain degree of athleticism, it takes a certain degree of timing, and it takes a hell of a lot of defense to be able to do it. All right, otherwise you can get tagged, right? Going from one side of the person's body to the next, you can get tagged, right? But it's something that's phenomenal if you can master that. Okay, am I buffering still? I need a little feedback. Mike Alvarado was the biggest heart ever in history. one of them. So defense, yes, absolutely. Defense is something you must always have at all times, if possible, in boxing. It's not possible to have it at all times, but you try to have it at all times. So if you can't, even if you're throwing a punch, for example. Okay, thank you very much, Tommy. If you're throwing a punch, for example, right, you're open to get countered, right? So if I'm supposed to throw a punch, I'm not going to throw it straight down the center, right? So I can get tagged back, right? I want to make it a little bit more difficult. So what would I do? 1, I'm going to try and throw that punch off an angle. 2, I'm also going to try and throw that punch either changing up levels or with a timing that goes in between the fighter's rhythm. You see? So whether it's a counter or whether it's initiated punch on the offbeat, I got to throw that punch when my opponent is not expecting me to throw that punch. I want to do things to offset my opponent. I may throw the punch off of a jab. The jab would have my opponent go back on the defensive. He may want to counter my jab, but whatever he's doing, he's going to be doing as a reaction to the jab. So I can do the jab as a bait. I could do the jab as a power punch. I could do the jab, it depends on what I want to do the jab with a jab. Like I'm going to come in off the jab to get on the inside so I can throw my punches off. So these are all very important things. And the good thing about the jab is, say for instance, my opponent wants to counter over the jab, I can keep the jab extended and keep my arm so that I'm actually shoulder rolling as I throw the jab. Depends on how I throw the jab, of course. But if I throw the jab this way, it's hard for my opponent to counter over that jab. You get what I'm saying? He wants to try and counter over the jab with another jab. It's going to be hard because my jab is blocking my chin. He can catch me on the top of my head, but he's not going to catch me. And it depends. If I throw the jab off of an angle, off the center, now it's even harder to get me on the top of my head. But he could counter me down below. He could catch me down below. I'm open for a body shot, right? But because I'm rolling to the side, when he throws that hook, right, I'll be riding the hook. I'll be moving with the hook. So it's all these things you have to understand in boxing. If you guys can understand what I'm saying. These are things that the defense that you have takes away from the offense of the fighter. Even if the fighter hits you, it takes a lot of smoke or steam off the punch. And so as a result of that, you last. Because it's about lasting in the sport of boxing, right? Remember, these guys, to be even the journey to become world champion for a lot of fighters. A lot of fighters don't become world champion, first of all. But the journey to become a world champion, especially when you're in the prime of your career, like Patrick Day was. He was in the prime of his career. You guys getting any feedback, like any sort of noise on the camera? If you're not getting any feedback or noise on the camera, great, because I'm trying to avoid. I need some breeze. The fan, it's very hot down here in Trinidad, and I just need some breeze. Okay, Hulk 333 says people think when I say defense, it's running in circles around the ring. Look. Nope, that's not what defense is. Defense is involved in every aspect, defensively responsible. No, defense is not just running in circles around the ring. I think a lot of people don't know what defense is to start with, right? Defense, what defense means is you're not getting hit by punches, right? It's to protect you from punches, right? So you don't want to get hit by a punch. So that's defense. So you could be coming at an opponent, you could be attacking an opponent, but you have defense at the same time. That is, you're attacking the opponent, possibly hitting them, but they're not hitting you. Whether it's by blocking punches or if it's by slipping, rolling, dipping, the whole 9 yards, right? And that involves footwork. Not just your upper body movement, but it's also your footwork that allows you and puts you in the position to be able to hit and not get hit. So hit and not get hit. The not get hit part is the defense part, right? And the hit is the offense part. So the object of boxing is to have offense with defense. That's what hit and not get hit means. Offense with defense, right? And you don't have to move all the way around the ring to have defense. You can be right in the pocket with a guy, supposedly going toe-to-toe, but you're not really going toe-to-toe because you're always off at an angle on the guy. You're not really directly in front of him at any point in time. But then again, a lot of people need to understand what that means, because I heard them comparing Derevyanchenko and GGG to Arturo Gatti versus Ward, and that shit is not true, okay? It's more like, sort of like Diego Corrales, Jose Luis Castillo. It's kind of something like that, but still it's better, because Derevyanchenko had the upper hand on GGG. He was pivoting around it, keep on turning Triple G. Like you say, the defensive circle. He's going around him all the time, right? Going weak side all the time. That's how he got the advantage to push back Triple G, to be able to dominate him on the inside, because he dominated him on the inside pretty much. And Triple G tried to land his jab to keep him at bay and push him back, right? So, Going back to what happened to Patrick Day. Patrick Day got caught with a hellacious shot that knocked him out immediately. And that is possible in boxing fights. But if you have proper defense, that's almost impossible to happen. If you look at boxers who had exceptional defense in the sport of boxing, none of them have ever been knocked out. A good amount of them have never been dropped. And fewer of them have ever been severely hurt throughout their careers. And so very good boxers with defense and footwork. Good footwork doesn't mean you're moving your feet a whole lot. It just means that, take for instance, Joe Louis had great footwork. Joe Louis had great footwork. He didn't move his feet a whole lot. He wasn't like Willie Pep going all around the ring, or Manny Pacquiao, moving, or Lomachenko moving all around the ring. But he had great footwork. He had great foot positioning. Canelo Alvarez has great foot positioning. Floyd Mayweather has great foot positioning. Floyd moves a little bit more probably than Canelo. But Canelo is not only deceptively quick, but he comes off of some very interesting angles that other boxers just don't implement. Okay? Canelo will be walking to you, but he's actually walking to you at an angle. And you're not aware that he's coming in on an angle on you, and then he springs the trap and he comes in and he lands a punch on you, right? So it's those kinds of things that you have to understand in boxing, that you don't want to get hit by the guy. That, that this rock'em sock'em robots nonsense that people like to see in firefights, they're entertaining to some degree. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. People talk about where's the passion. Like I was listening to Kenny Porter, and also Kenny Porter, and he was talking about how boxers today don't have that passion that they used to have. I think they do have passion. I just think that they're much more smarter in how they go about fighting fights, today than yesteryear. And it speaks to another thing that I think a lot of people don't understand. Today, with all the precautions in boxing, from the boxing gloves to all the precautions they have, these boxers still killing each other. And that tells you just how much power these boxers have, that they're bigger and they're stronger. And even when the boxers are living a healthy lifestyle, these boxers are killing one another still, in spite of all of that. And it just leads to the fact that these guys are so much more stronger than they used to be back in the day. All right? In spite of all the gloves, in spite of all the protective issues and refs and looking for concussive trauma and all of this stuff, in spite of all of that, boxers are still killing other boxers in the ring. And that's just a testimony to how much health science and the strength and the power of boxers today has evolved. All right, and like I say, I always say it over and over, boxing as a sport has evolved quite a lot. And so what you're seeing now is a whole different level of athlete. I was listening to Deontay Wilder's trainer, one of his trainers, Diaz, and he was talking about the fact that, back in the day, a guy coming up in weight from, like, say, for cruiserweight or light heavyweight, going into the heavyweight division, like Roy Jones Jr. did, and Evander Holyfield, and some of the legendary guys like Michael Spinks. These guys came up, they were faster than the heavyweights, right? The heavyweights generally were bigger, but they were slower. Nowadays, the heavyweights are quick and as fast as the guys coming up in the division to meet them. Tyson Fury is ridiculously quick. His reaction time is ridiculous. Deontay Wilder is lightning quick. Anthony Joshua's a little bit slower, right? Andy Ruiz is fucking fast. He's quick. He's lightning quick. And so guys like Usyk, for example, going up into the heavyweight division, he's not going to be the fastest dude out there. He's not going to be the most athletic dude out there. He's going up in a division where guys like Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury and you know, and Andy Ruiz. You know, they're talking about, Usyk could beat Andy Ruiz. Not at this point in time. Not at this point in time. You know, if Andy Ruiz, and Andy Ruiz is very fast. You know, he's not going to. He gets hit by Andy Ruiz, he's going down. He's gonna get knocked down. You know, he's not a heavyweight. So if he tries to mess with Andy Ruiz would piece him up. Andy Ruiz is ridiculously quick for a heavyweight, ridiculously fast. Okay, and I wouldn't put him in with Andy Ruiz. I just wouldn't do that. Not at this point in time. You know, he's faster. I think Andy Ruiz is quicker than Usyk actually. And then you look at Joseph Parker would be a good matchup for. He'd be a good matchup for Usyk, but again, Joseph Parker's pretty quick too, with his hands especially. But that would be a nice little matchup for Usyk down the road, not right now. Guys like Parker, Chisora. Chisora's too big and strong. Like Usyk would be boxing him, and Chisora would try and catch him with a punch to knock him down. Dillian White's too strong for him. I just realized from this fight where he had with Chad Witherspoon that these guys are. Chad Witherspoon is like probably the lowest tier heavyweight you could find, and he was jabbing Usyk and knocking him back. It was just a totally different level of power, and Chad Witherspoon's slow as fuck, and he's catching Usyk. So no, that's not a good look. He ain't ready for them guys yet. He has to grow and fill out more in the division before he can even try to compete with these. These are big bad boys, and they quick. It's kind of like the NBA players. You watch the NBA basketball players 6'7", 6'5", 6'10", but they quick as fuck. They're quicker than me. They dribble the ball faster than I do. And you'd be like, wow, these big dudes be moving like if they small little dudes. It's that kind of thing now going on with the heavyweight division. I was listening to a number of people talk about how the heavyweight division is kind of like weaker than the previous heavyweight divisions. Not like Klitschko's era, but previous divisions in the 90s and stuff. And I'm like, fuck no. You're talking about giants now. We're talking about guys who are super heavyweights. We're talking about guys 6'4" and up. That's the heavyweight division. You know what I'm saying? Andy Ruiz is like 6'4". Usyk's like 6'4". These are giants. Deontay Wilder's like what, 6'6"? Tyson Fury 6'9". Anthony Joshua 6'4". These are tall guys, right? The heavyweight division has gotten more and more bigger, if you really think about it, right? Andy Ruiz, who's 6'2", is considered a little guy. You know what I mean? You have to take everything with a pinch of salt. Okay, the heavyweight division was never that big, and these guys are quick. They're athletic. It makes for a very interesting sort of era. I don't like how Tyson Fury's conducted himself, but you got to admit these guys are big. You're talking about really big heavyweights right now. They're huge. Otto Wallen was like 6'4". It's ridiculous. But as I was saying before, looking at and understanding what we're talking about in terms of defense, protecting yourself at all times, this is what boxing is. Ain't nobody gonna protect you. The referee's not gonna protect you. You have to protect yourself. All the referee can do is, like, if you're being in an onslaught and it looks like he can call the fight, he can call it as a stoppage. It's still up to his discretion. You don't want to be at his mercy. You want to take things into your own hands. Make sure you protect yourself at all times. That's why they say protect yourself at all times. That's going to be on you if you don't protect yourself at all times. I don't care what's going on. You might get hit in your balls. You waiting for the ref to try and protect you. No, fuck no. He ain't going to call it. You got to protect yourself, which means you might hit the guy back in the balls. You might get penalized by the referee, but you better hit him in his balls so he don't hit you in your balls. You know what I'm saying? You got to protect yourself at all times. All times. You can get sucker punched in the middle of the fight, and then that's it. The fight could be over. The results could be called. The dude could have taken off his hand wraps, I've seen this already in boxing. The guy just does not like that you won the fight, and he comes and sucker punches you and breaks your jaw, and there's blood all over the place. I've seen that happen. Where we had a sour loser, and then of course he gets charged with assault. You know, he goes to prison for it, but in the meantime, you got a broken jaw. You know what I'm saying? Protect yourself at all times. At all times. Nobody's going to protect you for yourself. You have to protect yourself at all times. Right? That's how dangerous the sport is. So I agree with Hulk 333. Defense is very important in boxing. But as to precautionary measures, I think they should CAT scan boxers just before a fight, or up to the day of the fight. You need to CAT scan them. You know, before the fight, maybe it's inconvenient to CAT scan them the day of the fight. Maybe a day or two before the fight, they should go through a medical testing where they have to get brain scanned, because they found that there's a lot of traumatic brain injury in boxing. And I don't know if it's more than in football, but it's quite prevalent in the sport of boxing. And that makes sense. People get punched upside the head, right? And you don't have to be punched in your up in your brain area. You just have to be punched somewhere down here, and that could cause a lot of trouble. All right. And boxers have been injured in sparring. They've been injured in all kinds of things. It has been covered up so they can get the paycheck, and we need to make sure that doesn't happen in the sport of boxing. Guys coming in to fight with brain injuries, and we don't even know that, and then they get killed in the ring. You can't have that happening. So they need to take measures to ensure that these guys, you know, they don't get brain bleeds, all right? And we've seen even a perfectly healthy guy like Ali Bashir. He ended up with a brain bleed off of a punch that was not directed to his brain, right? That's how dangerous the sport is. And I was a sucker punch at that. So we have to understand, this is like assault. This is like assault in the ring, especially if one fighter is getting the better of another. Both guys have a fair chance of going at each other because it's an even playing field, especially in light of the people who are being popped for PEDs. I think the drug testing bodies need to be even more stringent about that. Because if someone is using PEDs, that gives them an unfair advantage, and again, can cause concussive traumatic brain injuries, and then a lot of people can die. So they need to be a little bit more serious about that and clamping down on people who may be using those things. But other than that, I want to hear what you guys have to say before I go into some other topics and some other things. I got some other things to talk to you guys about. I got to go eat some food and stuff. It was a very hot day today. I was moving up and down, doing transaction after transaction after transaction. I was out for most of the day. When I came back home, I fell asleep. My stomach was a bit swollen from, again, I hadn't drank enough fluid. And so I gathered some gas and stuff. It's not as swollen, but it's still kind of swollen. I ate a lot, but I didn't drink enough. It's so hot out there, man. It's so hot out there. I can't explain to you how hot it is. Yeah, so Patrick Day has passed away. On another note, Errol Spence talked about him being a savage. I don't know about that. I know he was fortunate. The Lord saved his life. His story could end up being like Diego Corrales' story, and several other fighters who died outside the ring due to road fatalities. So I wouldn't be boasting about being a savage. I would just say, you blessed, brother. You know. But he made it out with a couple injuries and lacerations. You know, and a lot of prayers for him. Ali Bashir, he's home resting, so I'm so happy about that. So he'll be on the mend. Hopefully he can train Habizan so that she can face Clarissa. They're still going to get that match going. They're going to still keep it popping. And as I said before, uh, I'm just happy that these guys made it through because, Adonis Stevenson almost is coming back. He's coming back. It's a long journey back, but he's coming back, like a true champion. He's bouncing back. And that's just great, again, to see him, coming back from that. And of course, we have a number of other people who, we should be keeping in our prayers as we speak. The Puerto Rican fighter who got hurt real bad. We don't talk much about him and his injuries and how is he progressing. And I think that happened 2 years ago. And he was a very promising fighter. A lot of these guys are very promising fighters. So once again, sport of boxing, anything can happen in the sport of boxing. I wanted to hear you guys' feedback on it. Yes, very important is defense, and it's really up to the fighter to make sure he has defense, because without defense, you're gonna get hit. Gennady Golovkin, like I said before, if Canelo faces Gennady Golovkin, or if he faces one of these other guys like Jamal Charlo or even Demetrius Andrade, I think he can get concussed. He can get badly damaged. Which is why he's trying to defend his IBF title. He only talking about mandatory defenses now. He don't really want to mess with them guys right now and become like an Adonis Stevenson, get knocked into a concussive coma and don't come back out. You know what I'm saying? He takes a lot of punishment. You can't take that. You can't go through the rest of your career like that. And he's taking a lot of punishment. In 4 fights, he took a lot of punishment. Yeah, I'm coming back. So I'm gonna go score Sugar Ray Leonard versus Marvin Hagler. I'm trying to stream that, so it's gonna be a live stream, so you guys can comment on the live stream as I'm talking about it. I may just try and do the rest of the fight instead of just going round by round. We'll see how YouTube reacts to that. And then after that, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to go into, I think it's the Canelo Triple G1 fight. We're gonna deal with that. And we'll try and do that recap for you guys. And then we're gonna try and get the second Canelo Triple G fight going. And we'll do Wilder versus Fury. For the Wilder versus Fury, I may have to get a feed, maybe from BT or something like that. I can't do the PBC thing; they'll flag me. So maybe I'll use BT Sports or something, and we'll run that feed. Depending on how I run the feed, I think will determine if I get flagged or not. And we're gonna break down that fight, so you guys can see who actually won that fight. Again, it's not really hard to judge as you start to understand how the 4 criteria works. Who's got the upper hand, who's actually doing the cleaner work, that kind of stuff. So who has the upper hand? Usually it's the person who's the ring general, who's doing the signature punches, the punches that really stand out in the round. So it's not so much about how many punches are thrown, even though being busy is also an important factor. But, and busy landing I'm talking about. But you still have to look at also the standout punches in the round. Sometimes I got fighters very busy throwing a lot of punches, landing a lot of punches, but then the other fighter takes the whole round, but a signature punch that rocks the other fighter and really affects the other fighter more than the other fighter's been affecting the other guy, right? So you have to look for those kinds of things, signature punches. And then you have to also look at whose fight are we fighting. It doesn't necessarily mean that whose fight you're fighting means that you're winning, because sometimes a fighter can beat another fighter at their own game. But that is also something called ring generalship, which you have to factor in, especially if the one who is fighting his own fight is extremely successful at doing that and is actually affecting the other fighter as he punches him. So these those kind of little simple things, and that incorporates both ring generalship, effective punching, depending on if the guy's an aggressor, effective aggression, you understand, and depending on what kind of fight we're talking about, where they're not just trading punches, somebody's actually on the offense, the other person's on the defense, And if the other fellow who's on the offense is beating up the other guy who's on the defense, then that guy who's on the offense, actually his offense is like his defense. So that means he's the guy whose defense, who's got the better defense, because he's not getting hit as much because he's the one on offense, right? So these are the ways how you kind of look at it. So it's not that the 4 criteria is something you're looking and checking off tick boxes, but you can see the momentum shifts, the momentum changes. Who's really landing those eye-catching shots, or those shots that you remember in the round? That's the way our judges score a fight. All right? Is it subjective? It depends. If the judges are, but it's not really subjective. I'll tell you what. One, you can see who, generally speaking, in most fights, you can see who's actually winning the round. You can see that. You're just watching it and you can see that it flows into this guy's favor. And the only reason you can know those things is if you know the strategy of the fighters going into the fight. Leonard versus Hagler, we knew Hagler was going to box. Leonard was going to box Hagler on the outside for the most part, right? Hagler had to get on the inside, work at Leonard's body. So we knew what these fighters would be doing when they go into the fight. Sometimes you can look at points to victory. So sometimes they put points to victory out there. This is what this fighter needs to do. This is what this fighter needs to do. So those points to victory don't necessarily mean that the fighters need to do that to win. But generally speaking, this is kind of like what you expect from them, right? I like to say, not points to victory, I like to say, what do the fighters typically do? What are they typically good at? Are we seeing them do and implement the things that they're good at? And they usually do. So if another fighter is taking away what the other fighter normally does and is good at, that fighter was successful at neutralizing the other fighter. It doesn't mean that they won yet. But if they now are not neutralized by the other fighter, they are getting to do what they like to do and they usually like to do, then they're probably winning the fight. Because it's ring generalship that's going on there. And effective aggression, which is the offensive end of it. So it's those kinds of things going on. And once you can understand these sort of things in scoring a fight, then it's not subjective really. It's something that you can, especially when a fight is so one-sided that you can clearly see who the winner is, right? When it's not as clear, it's competitive, round by round, one fighter is answering the other fighter and stuff, it gets a little tougher. But then again, you can always decide it based on who's really landed the more effective, impactful punches of the round. That's one way of looking at it. Or who been doing what they want to do more than the other one. All right? So if, for instance, if the fighter's in the last 30 seconds of the round stealing the round, the other fighter's working all the way through the round, the one who's trying to steal the round, you have to look to see, did his punches really have effect? Did he really do what he wanted to do? That's how you have to look at it. All right? All right, but people, we are finished. We will continue this discussion on steps and measures needed to be taken. What can we do to allow fighters in a dangerous sport, and what do the fighters need to do for themselves to increase their chances of not ending up in a Patrick Day situation, Donald Stevenson situation, Dadashev situation. All right? Because you can't just say it's about putting legislature in place or laws to allow the fighters to increase their chances. I think also the fighters, it's on them as well. Onus is on them to make sure that they're in proper health and they're really ready to face the opponent. A lot of times these fighters are to blame as much as everybody else because they have neglected certain aspects and they just went for the paycheck. Paycheck is not as important as your health. So for the fighters, you need to understand, you need to be in the proper physical health. Andre would say, if I'm not 100% going to fight like that, at least, or, close to 100%, then I'm not going to just take a fight, which makes sense. And in addition, like I said before, reaction time, response time. The response time to a fighter who you've seen is clearly knocked out. It's very important to get the oxygen to them and then get them into an ambulance as quickly as possible and get them to a health center or somewhere where they can start regulating and controlling, whatever trauma may be there. The faster you can get a reaction time to be able to do these things, the better you increase the chances of that boxer surviving that thing and recovering fully. And then, of course, the preventative measures such as brain scans, CAT scans, PED tests, that are much more accurate and precise. Let me hear some other suggestions from you guys. Of course, defense in fights, as we said. It's on the boxer again to have their defense on point. The referee's not going to help you with that. You have to have defense. So the better defensive fighter you are, the better your chances of not even having this situation happen. Another thing that's very important is nutrition and health, how you treat your body. You know, when you're young, you sometimes don't treat your body right. You run it down and stuff like that. It's very important for the body to get proper rest. I haven't been getting proper rest these days, and that's another thing I got to look into with my body. I got to go eat something, but first I have to go continue drinking. Still got that little pain over my bladder. So, yeah, there are a lot of different factors you have to have, but you have to factor in when you're talking about boxing. All right, and I personally, I'm trying to take it to heart because I know I have to get in there. So, what do I eat? This is a pot right here. Lentil peas. I take a generous helping of lentil peas. Or protein. I don't really use a lot of meats. And then I don't use bread. I use rice. So I use rice and peas. I use turmeric. Here's my turmeric powder. I use turmeric, a sprinkle of turmeric up in there. That's my good here. I also use ground masala curry. There's different kinds of curries. This is ground masala curry. Sprinkle that. And I go outside and I get some seasonings from the garden outside. And that's what I do. That's how I eat. There's the stove right behind me there. Yeah, that's what I eat, man, ladies and gentlemen. That's the oven right there. You know, in boxing, you have to be careful about everything. Like you say, you have to be spiritually, physically, mentally, you have to be balanced all the way around. You know, you gotta take it seriously. Because you're going to war, just like a soldier does, going to war. You're going to battle. Serious business. I use normal salt, table salt. Because I drink so much water, I can use a lot of salt. Otherwise, I'll cramp up. So it's kind of important. Generous helpings of table salt. You go outside and get some seasoning. Alright? So you guys, I hope you have a blessed day. Your boy's going to be tuning out for a minute. But hopefully you guys can have a good one, man. Do I eat pizza? No, I don't really eat pizza. But I do use dip, chips and dip. I don't really use a lot of cheese. Chips and dip, a lot of seasonings with some kind of tomato sauce thing. I love the dip. It's really nice. So I'd eat the dip with chips and stuff. Like I use chia and flaxseed chips. They're really nice. They taste really great. So I use a lot of seeds. Like today, I use a lot of nuts and seeds and stuff like that. I don't use soda. I don't use soda at all. Soda is just not good for me. And I already have a gas problem. So I don't use soda at all. I don't use sugar much. I mean, today I did use some sugar with granola. I used some granola and fruit. I think they sweeten the berries and stuff like that. What else did I use? I use sugar free. I use sugar free wafers. I like sweet. I have a sweet tooth. What I do now is like I use Hershey chocolate bars, but they're sweetened with maltitol. Check it out. Maltitol's got a lower glycemic index than sugar. It's a sugar alcohol, and so it tastes just as good as sweet as sugar. I also like brownies, so I use brownies, but sugar-free brownies with maltitol again. Today I had some wafers. So since I don't want to use sugar, I use maltitol. There's also carob. Carob tastes good too. Yeah, and I love chocolate, so Cadbury cocoa. I love stuff like that. So I use this. This is not sweetened. This is just chocolate, cocoa, and you know cocoa butter. Cocoa butter is the chocolate as well. So I put it on my skin. Cocoa butter. Cocoa butter again. Cocoa and cocoa butter. It causes you to kind of the skin to draw water out of it. So I sweat plenty, but the sweating allows me not to evaporate. It doesn't evaporate off. So like for instance, I lose a lot of water very quickly. So if I for instance I'm out there in that hot sun, I actually dry up really quick. But when I put the cocoa butter on my skin, it actually it actually uh it actually allows me to keep the moisture inside, so I can still keep on drinking water, but now I'm a lot more moist. Because I had a lot of problems, man. I can't tell you. I got constipated because of it. Because you know, the water's reabsorbed through your large intestine. So by the time it gets to the rectum, the food could be really dry. I used to have, have faces that would come out white. That's how dry it would be. And I get constipated. Now I'm not as constipated anymore, but I still have gas that builds up in the lower part of my intestines, right over my bladder. It's going away, but I think some of the practices that I do cause me to dry out underneath there still. So I get a little bit constipated, a bit. Not constipated like constipated, but because stuff, I mean, I pass stuff and things, but I mean, like constipated in that I'm not really flatulating like I should and stuff like that. Poopy Zushon says you should start your videos with scriptures like you did before. Yeah, man, I should go back to that. The thing about it is, I don't really want to start. I don't want to start videos with scripture and I'm cursing like a Hika sailor, like a sailor all the time. But I will take your advice and I'll go back to that. Yeah. Let me just go out there and get some seasoning. I'll show you guys what I get for seasoning as well. All of these things are part of, like, if you're going to be in a sport, you need to eat healthy, right? To be in tip-top condition. I need to go use the toilet. My bladder's like wanting, because I drink a lot of water. I didn't drink a lot of water today, so that's why I kind of had some gas problems. But I drink a lot of water. And Krista Sheila, she was talking about that actually when I was looking at her diet and how you lose weight. You drink a lot of water as well in between the meals. And when it's time to actually lose the weight, you just don't drink water. So you can just lose that water weight, and you just you do everything like normal. You can not use a whole set of water for at least a day or two. It won't affect you adversely. But beyond that, it could affect you adversely. You know what I mean? but you kind of sweat out the water and stuff, and you don't really use it. And so the water mass is what, you can lose like 15 to 20 pounds of water mass. So you can make the weight, and then after you make the weight, you just rehydrate slowly back with electrolytes. And you can feel pretty good, especially losing the weight gradually. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the most important drugs, nutrients, um, um, foods you could ever give yourself. Water. It's the cornerstone of all your health. You can't do it without water. You need to have water in your system. Toast to you guys. This is obviously a you know, with you, something to blend stuff in, right? But I use it to drink water as well. So I make all my smoothies and all my milk drinks that way. And I sweeten foods naturally. Like, for instance, if I'm making a smoothie, I'd make a berry smoothie. It's very sweet, blueberries especially. Blueberry smoothie. You get some almond milk. I've been using milk. It's been kind of not so good for me, but almond milk, and you use whatever you want, berries, whatever you want, something that's sweet. Dates, you can put dates in there, berries. It's nice to put some nuts in there if you like peanuts, whatever. You just put the actual peanut in there. You can put peanut butter too, but you may want the peanut butter without the sugar in it. I don't know. But you don't, instead of using processed sugar, you're using a lot of natural sugars. And it tastes great. It tastes super great. If you want, you add a little vanilla to it. Other flavoring stuff. Anyway, I'm going outside to just get some stuff, and I'll come back. Yeah. Okay. You guys probably did your predictions and picks for Biddy BF versus. You know what I really want to do though? I want to have a little fun time with you guys. That is to say, I want you guys to be able to call in on these things and actually talk your mind, so that you don't have to type so much. I'm thinking about how I can go about doing that, so I can get you guys to call in. I have another phone, but that phone is not. It's an old phone. It's an iPhone. It's an old iPhone. It's an iPhone 4. And so this phone here is a little bit outdated. Besides that, there's a little problem with it. It's linked to another phone, which my niece, somebody tried to call me. I think people are trying to call me concerning some product I'm selling online, and I'm not coming back to them. I'm not getting back to them. I'll see what I could do. But yeah, I also sell other things, and I'm doing a yard sale as well. Anyways, guys, I'm coming back to you guys in a minute. Thanks for all the likes, by the way. And I'm going to talk to you guys. Tommy Temper also, I'm going to talk to you in a minute. Yeah, bottoms up, people. Oh, I'll show you guys what seasoning I use. You guys can use things like parsley. Sometimes I actually slice up cucumbers and throw the sliced cucumbers into the pot over there But today I'm going to use Okay, so I use uh, this here. It's the shadow bedding, aka fitweed. So this is one of the seasons I use. This is broadleaf thyme. This is called thyme, and it's broadleaf. And then I have a smaller leaf thyme. And then I use what's called Spanish thyme, which is the fine leaf thyme. So I use 3 different types of thyme as well as shadow benny, and I just chip them up on the side here. But you can also use things like parsley, oregano. They're really nice seasonings. So I actually get natural seasonings. I don't go and buy this stuff because we actually grow it outside. I also have turmeric outside. So if I want to, I can go get a turmeric leaf right now. Chop them up. They usually use the root, but you can also use the leaves. I have nice green leafy seasoning that I put inside of the pot. So I gotta go outside and actually wet the plants. They need some wetting, and I need to do a couple other things, but that's what you guys have been saying. Poopy Sister says, does it get to 40 degrees there? Yep, it does sometimes. And then the humidity is ridiculous. It gets really, really hot. Today was a very hot day. And we're in what we call the rainy season. And the rain comes down like a monsoon, like almost. Like there's days when it just rains ridiculously, and then there's sun for the entire day. So I have to take care of the plants and stuff so they don't burn out and stuff. Troy Ingram. Shout out to Troy Ingram. Are you from America? No, I'm not. This is not America. I'm in the Caribbean. I talk like if I'm an American, but I'm not. I'm from Trinidad. This is Trinidad. So, yeah. So, yeah. So what you guys are saying here. Fernando Montero, haha, I just came in. I thought you were holding up Napolis. Haha. No palace. No, I'm just this video is really on Patrick Day and his passing. But I just wanted to hear what you guys had to say about it as well. And I just kind of letting you guys know a little bit about what I do and some of the simple things I do to stay in shape. Squats, like see as food is cooking and stuff, and you may be a busy person during the day. Just take some time out and just do some squats. They're really easy. So you're here, and you just start squatting. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you just squat away. Yeah, he died. So we've been discussing that actually, and we have been discussing very important things in boxing to help boxers stay alive and functioning a little bit more in the sport of boxing, because it doesn't take much to make a boxer end up like Patrick Day. It doesn't take much. That's why you don't cheat in boxing. You don't cut corners and you don't cheat. Why? Because guess what? If you do that, it'll be on you. It's your health that's at stake. It's your life that's on the line. You know? So I'm just showing you guys the meal that I do. Coach Eric Bradley, he's fantastic when it comes to talking about diets as well. You can check out Coach Eric Bradley. Check out Clarissa Shields. What was her channel? Hold on. Just type in Clarissa Shields and then do a search for channels on YouTube. It doesn't exactly say Clarissa Shields, but her channel is there. And she showed, one of her videos was actually talking about diet and losing weight. It's great stuff. And anybody can apply it. And the idea behind how you lose weight, you stay away from a lot of processed sugars to healthy. You would be surprised. And this might sound strange to some of you guys, but staying away from processed sugars actually gives you more energy and actually makes you stronger, and healthier. I've stayed away from processed sugars for a while now. I don't really use a lot of sweet stuff that's processed, and if I do, it's going to be something that takes a longer time to break down into glucose, like maltitol. So I can use Hershey chocolate bars, for instance. I love chocolate, so Hershey chocolate bars. Yeah, man. I go to the sugar-free version. When I'm going to get real chocolate, like chocolate, cocoa chocolate, it's 87% chocolate, right? 13%, like 3% sugar or something like that. So it's 13% sugar. So you want to get things where it doesn't taste sweet. By the way, you have to sweeten it with things like cranberries, or I forgot the berry. It's a red berry. It's really nice. It tastes really good. But you need to sweeten it with things like that, or dates or something, or raisins. Raisins with that is great, because raisins and chocolate taste great. So, that's what you do. Living a healthier lifestyle than you normally do is really great. So it's not like you don't have to eat sweet things. You can eat sweet things, but naturally sweeten them. Naturally sweeten them. And things that naturally sweeten things are like bananas for like milkshakes and drinks. You got dates. Dates are really fantastic. They're very, very sweet. You got raisins. You got most fruits. So papaya, also known as pawpaw. Berries. Oh, I love berries. Blueberries particularly. They taste really great. Blackberries are good too. Grapes. Grapes are sweet. Use those. Pears. Pears are nice and smooth. Fernando Montero says, "Gotta get on it, man. I used to be 147 and ripped. When I got out of the country, I put on some weight too much, too much Mickey's liquor and backwoods. That's the thing. You have to. I don't use alcohol. Period. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I've never drank or smoked in my life. I've never even used marijuana at all. But you can boil the leaves and make it for tea. It's great tea. Yeah, and it also maintains your health. Marijuana also helps with your health. The oils are good too. I just never use them. But you have to be careful how you use the oil because it makes you go to sleep and you can just be like a narcoleptic. Gives you a good head too, I heard. So yeah, there's a lot of healthy things. And again, boxers, they need to have that kind of diet. I'm pretty sure that Patrick Day, conformed to that. He wasn't a guy that grew up in the hood. Actually, he had a master's degree, from what I heard from the Boxing Voice. He was an educated guy, but he chose to go the route of boxing because he was predisposed towards that. He liked that. So he did what he loved. He died doing what he loved. And that's why they're called gladiators. So you have to respect anyone who steps into that squared circle, especially at the highest level. Yeah, so I was just talking with you guys because, we have that stuff going on there. You guys don't know, but I'm flatulating all the time. Like I'm passing gas, and this is great. Because if I'm not passing gas, then it can build up in my system and really hurt me. I can get reflux and stuff. I've been pretty healthy for the most part, but I pass a lot of gas these days, which is good. Very soon I won't be passing as much, but yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. At least I didn't curse in this video as well. That's a plus as well. We're getting somewhere. In terms of workouts, like I said before, squats. Get back to doing squats. You can do squats at any place, anytime, almost any time in the day. You be behind your desk sitting down too much. Just get off your desk for a minute if you're working at an office or something, and do a couple of squats. Just be careful how you do them, right? They're great. They really build your foundation. They build your feet. They build your strength. Everything comes from your feet. If you like doing a little sparring and stuff, shadow boxing and shit, that's great too. Shadow boxing is great for your core. Always try to stay in a squat, in a strong stance when you're boxing, so you can get that proper. It's kind of hard. I'm a southpaw, so it's hard to throw a hook. It's kind of hard to throw a hook this way, right? Right? But try to practice it. It feels awkward. It felt very awkward for me the first time. So I'm like, it feels weird. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to slow it down for you guys to see. Double jab up top. Double jab up top. Hook. And what's happening here is for me to get that pivot on the hook. Right? Now, what did I not do? Defense. I didn't protect myself, right? I was open. So double jab up top, off an angle. Come back here and turn. Right? Shoulder up. If I'm going for the head, if I'm going for the body, what do? Down low. Down low. Right? Change levels. Head off to an angle. So we'll be here. I'm rolling under. You guys didn't see that, but I rolled under and I hooked at the same time with the action. Got it? So I just slowed it down so you guys can see. Right? And after you hook, what do? Pivot. Or, it depends. You can step in, or you can slide in, keeping the back foot in fixed position, and you could slide back out. Alright? Roll in, roll out. Roll in, roll out. Roll in, roll out. Right? It depends what you're doing. Trying to come off an angle all the time. Don't try to come in straight to the front door. Come in off an angle. If you're gonna come in through the front door, remember to turn, right? Because he can catch you. He can catch you smack here. So you're gonna come in off the. You coming in on the front door. Remember to turn, right? Yeah. So it's boxing. So yeah, I do my little shadow boxing, mostly shadow boxing I do. Um, but gotta tighten up on angles. I need to get the line so I can do the little bob and weave thing, slip and slide. Just slight movement off here. Huh? Right. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's boxing. Do I do any running? These days, no, I don't do any running. I do mostly cardio, so it's running on the spot. You can do it like this. I can't do it in this pants, but I just do this. I just do those. So I basically run on the spot. I don't really I don't do a lot of actual running. I do a lot of walking. So a lot of road work walking. I walk a lot. uh, do I watch Mike Alvarado's film to avoid taking hits? I weigh 162, 164 right now. Came down from 175. 175 felt really great. Very strong. 162, I feel good. I just feel a little lighter. I'm a little faster as well. At 162. 158, I feel very light. I started to fall into the weight. Of course you get more ripped. But yeah. I'm young, so I might try the amateurs. Yeah, man, go for it, bro. Go for it. Go for it. Make sure your health's up to par, though. Make sure your health's up to par. And don't just jump into the amateurs. You know what I'm saying? Get a trainer. Do the thing right. Do the thing proper. Do the thing right. Okay? If you've never done boxing before, you have a lot to learn before you can even step up, try and do an amateur fight. At this point in time. Because you're probably in your 20s. Oh my God. You guys talk some serious smack. Then I will call out the winner of Crawford Spence when it occurs in 2027. It'll happen next year. That's almost a certainty. Crawford will face Spence next year. Whether Spence wins or not. Yeah. They may actually. I put a poll. Most of you guys want to see that fight next year. You want it to be in the beginning of 2020, not the end of 2020. I put out the poll just to see what you guys thought. Most of you wanted at the beginning of 2020. I even asked you guys who was the best welterweight in the welterweight division at this point in time. The number one welterweight. You guys said Manny Pacquiao. Y'all, for some reason, had Terrence Crawford ahead of Errol Spence. I don't know how that happened, but Errol's the next best. Clearly. I mean, you can't have 2 world titles and not be the next best. Keith Thurman was the number one welterweight in the division because he was unified. Nobody else is unified. How soon do you think Spence recovers? Oh, he good. He's good. He just, I think he Instagrammed that he's a savage or something like that because he survived the accident. So he's good. He's tweeting away and all of that stuff. Thank God, though. Spence posted on Instagram today. Yep. He's good. Zav Judah's good, too. Zab's okay. Spence is okay. Ali Bashir's still on the mend, but he's doing all right. I'm so thankful that all three of them are doing all right. That's really good. So, Errol's very fortunate. Very, very fortunate. Very, very fortunate. When you're young and stupid, you know. Tangible Boxing says Danny Garcia may as well retire, knowing he will get his doors blown off by a guy fresh off of fresh off a life-threatening car accident. You know what I'm saying? This man stared death in the face and he survived. So I mean, you know, I would say I think Spence is a danger to anybody in the division in terms of winning fights. I'm not talking about, you know, killing people and stuff like that. He's not like a boogeyman. I always said he's not a boogeyman. I said Terrence's not a boogeyman, right? I think that Errol Spence, you know, just like Terrence Crawford, they're gas heads and hot heads, and they like to spill out tires and, you know, the young stupid people shit. But at the end of the day, I think that, you know, I just think that I don't care what people say. I think Errol Spence puts the work on both Danny and Terrence. I think Danny and Terrence are about the same size. They're not true welterweights. It seems as though Terrence is growing into welterweight, as is Danny, but I still think they're not true welterweights. And I think Errol will put the work on him. It won't happen immediately. He'd be stealing shots here, stealing shots there, you know, boxing them, but getting the body work in. And then when it's accumulated enough, he's going to crash them. Yeah. Because I saw it, he was doing it to Sean Porter. He was stealing in shots here, stealing in shots there, keeping his defense as tight as possible, still getting hit with combinations and stuff by Sean Porter. But, you know, I knew Porter wasn't going to go nowhere because Porter was just too much bigger than Errol Spence. I know he was physically bigger than Errol. And you could see it, right? So, and this is not just physically bigger in terms of size, but in terms of brute strength. He was like brute strength-wise. Now, there's guys who are punchers and they, you know, they're great punchers and shit. But he wasn't just a puncher. He's big. He's physically strong. He's like Timothy Bradley on steroids. So I knew Errol wasn't going to do him nothing. You know what I'm saying? He still dropped him though, but that was on Porter to some degree, but he kept his hands low. But nonetheless, he dropped him, and that just shows you that Errol was accumulating punishment on Sean. Not to say that Sean wasn't doing things to Errol too. Errol was tired too, but you know, Sean was working Errol pretty good. But I think Errol against Terrence is not going to be Sean. Terrence is not that aggressive. He doesn't have the bob and weave skills and all that stuff. So he's not going to be able to do what Sean does. So I think Errol will be able to box him more. And I think because of that, because Sean will be all up in your chest, Errol will be able to box him more. And because of that, I think Errol will pick him apart. I know a lot of people think Terrence will pick apart Errol. And he will get his shots off on Errol. Don't get me wrong. Errol get hit in the head and stuff. But Errol got pretty good defense. He's got pretty good defense. Sean was able to do a lot of things to Errol because Sean has, you know, inside footwork. You do inside pivots and all that shit. So Sean be doing all kinds of things inside of there. But Terrence don't do that stuff. Terrence don't do that stuff. That's what I'm trying to tell you guys. Be more of a boxing match. Same thing with Danny Garcia. Danny Garcia is more traditional. Be more of a boxing match. Errol Spence says the tour guide is hard in the ring. Maybe, nah. I don't really like talking about a tour guide like that. A tour guide was stupid, man. How he got beat up by Mickey Ward was because he kept on pushing his head. He did the same thing over and over. He pushed his head right into the line of Mickey Ward's fire. So he'd be way outside here and he'd dip his head in. So Mickey Ward would just left hook it, right hook it, boop boop. Boop boop. The dude would just dip his head into the line of fire. I'd be like, this dumb. You know, hey, that's dumb. You know. He lost that first fight. That was on him. Errol's like the refined Carl Froch. Nah. And now Errol's got a lot more boxing pedigree than Carl Froch. Carl Froch is kind of unorthodox. He's got underrated defense, but he's more unorthodox and he eat a lot of punches just to get a punch back. He a tough, strong guy. Carl Froch more remind me of GGG than he remind me of Errol Spence. You know, Errol got pedigree, man. He got skills. You know, he break down fighters. He doesn't just try to overwhelm you with size and strength. He try to break you down. He actually has good defense. You're not gonna hit him with, well, Sean hit him with a couple of punches, combinations and shit. But generally speaking, not gonna hit him with like 2 and 3 punches at a time. It's not gonna happen. Generally speaking, Sean's just a different animal. Period. You're not gonna get a Sean Porter every day like that. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. And he's sneaky with it. Like with Sean, he was sneaking in those body shots on Sean. Sean be throwing all those combinations, even getting with some good body shots. And Errol would like go like this, and then he just sneak a right hook in there, or in the clinch, he just sneak a left hook underneath there. He's sneaky. He be placing them shots, man. Clinic. Sean caught him. He caught him with like a double right hook, a double straight right. I think he hit him with 4 straight rights. I mean, Sean does some kind of shit, man. Sean crazy, man. He hit him with 4 uppercuts in a row. Sean hit him with all kinds of things, man. Sean is just sick, man. Sean is a different animal. Like I said, he reminds me of Errol Pryor. He's a different animal. He do all kinds of things in that ring. And a lot of people just don't appreciate what he does, but he does a lot of stuff in there. Kenny got an animal on it. He got an animal on his hands. Sean he's both beast, but he's smart with it. Like he's smart and he's quick with it. He's very athletic. So, Sean do all kinds of crazy stuff, man. I can't even go. I'll break down Sean Porter one day. Because he does a lot of stuff. Sean will give you 4 or 5 different looks for 4 or 5 different rounds. He started off the round doing something different every single time. So he has you have to adjust to Sean round by round. You have to adjust him. That's the thing with Sean Porter. He does all kinds of things in there. You just have to appreciate it. He's not just a football fighter. Chavez style. I don't know what to say about Sean. Sean got his own style. Chavez was never as fast and as tenacious as Sean Porter is. Chavez would place his punches a lot better than Sean would as well. And probably had more leverage on his punches as well. Sean overwhelms you with punches. He'll come with one hard body shot and then he just overwhelm you with a whole bunch of shots. You just be seeing blur shots all over you. That's the way Sean works. Don't get it wrong. Sean got power, but he don't use it all the time. He just kind of overwhelm you with shots. And he got a lot of tenacity. Errol started up in the Mexican gyms. Yeah, I know. Not a fan of Derek James, though. I hear you, man. J30 says, R.I.P. Brother, yes, sir. Yeah, Patrick Day. Yeah, man. R.I.P. to Patrick Day. You guys can't see it, but I'm sweating like a pig. It's that hot. Errol survived the crash and Patrick didn't survive the fall. Yeah. That's life for you, man. Allah has plans for us all. Yeah, bro. It is what it is. It is what it is. Tangible Boxing says we lost Day, Santillan, Dadashev, Perno, Napoles in the last 3 to 4 months. Oh yeah, that's true. Perno stepped in front of a car, man. Oh my God. That's what a way to go. Does it matter though? He's gone, right? So does it matter? And it was probably sudden, so he probably don't even know. You know what I mean? Like they always ask me, which way would you like to go if you had to die? I'm like, first of all, I don't even think I would want to die. So why would I even talk about that? The paternal loss affected me most since he's in kind of my local guy from Virginia. Oh snap! I didn't know you're from Virginia. Yeah, paternal affected us all. I love this style of boxing. I love this style of boxing. The other thing I do, where possible, I try to eat from, well, styrofoam's not the best thing to use in the world, but I try to eat from plates and cups that are disposable. So I use a disposable plate or disposable cup. So I don't have to wash a whole set of stuff. I just throw the stuff away after. Because I'm lazy at that. Best Pernell moment was when he lost his mind in the post-fight of the Oscar fight. Oh man, you guys are funny. You should wait a little bit. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead a little bit. Yeah, folks. Man, it was good talking with you guys. Some more boxing, but again, what we need to do as boxing fans is we need to stop trying to talk about fighters. Sometimes, we get mad at a fighter pulled out of a fight because of an injury. When in fact, we should be more understanding about that fighter. You know what I mean? Because sometimes that injury could cost that fighter his life or her life. Yeah. If you're dehydrated, it could cause brain bleeds. Correct. Because now you don't have enough fluid to buffer the impact of punches. Correct, man. I got gas that's acting up again. I'm hungry, and but I'm not gonna eat anything as yet. I gotta eat in a couple of seconds. Yeah, guys, man. I think IV administrations before fights may be needed for guys who really cut themselves down, especially when they're losing so much weight. Yeah, but again, it's how you lose the weight. Some fighters they balloon themselves up so much past the weight class that they're in. They haven't been maintaining and controlling their weight. When it's time to cut weight, it affects them adversely. Whereas, if you do the right things and you eat the right way, like I said, if you're using the right diet, eating the right way, if you find that you're too big for a weight class, then you got to move up a weight class. There are risks involved in moving up a weight class, but you may have to do that because if you lose weight properly, it should not be painful for you. And you're talking about losing like 15 pounds within 2 days, right? You lose 15 pounds in 2 days. So you decrease your water intake over 2 days, and then you get it back up gradually after that, and and by fight time, you should be at whatever healthy weight you're supposed to be at. Same day weigh-ins may also force fighters to be closer to their natural weight class. I don't know if same day weigh-ins will ever come back. The reason why I say that is because I think that these fighters are so big now that to impose same day weigh-ins would cause a lot of people to come out of weight classes. So it'll just really completely mess up everything. You can't just go to same day weigh-ins just like that. So for instance, guys who are at lightweight right now, they'll have to go somewhere else. How did Miguel Cotto not die against Pacquiao? The referee stopped the fight. That's why he didn't die against Pacquiao. If the referee had probably let that fight run for the 12 rounds, he might have died. Who knows? We don't know. He took a lot of punishment, man. That's another thing. In women's boxing, I find that they're actually more brutal. Women take a lot of punishment in women's boxing, and because people don't get knocked out that much, it's actually, I think they get more wear and tear on their bodies. And we know women's threshold for pain is higher than men, so they could take a lot, and that could probably damage them even worse. So they need to look into that. But yeah, guys, I'm gonna peace out right now. We'll talk a little bit more about this topic as time goes along. I'm trying to do some videos on it. Man, do I need to eat right now. But in the meantime, I drank a lot of water too. But in the meantime, I hope that you guys have a good one. I'm going to catch you guys later. Don't forget, you can also not just subscribe to my channel and comment on my channel and talk in the chats, but you can also donate to my channel. So you guys remember that for Western Union MoneyGram. Peace to you guys. I'm out.